Mychal. I'm a sommelier, tarot card reader, and former ballerina.
Hi, I'm Suzanne. I am a writer, an author, and a teacher.
And this is All the Woo, Seasonette.
Well, actually, all the woo A to Z, Seasonette.
Ghosts.
But this is episode 3.
Episode 3. Yes.
Which is what, Mychal?
Effing terrifying?
That.
Okay.
And we are once more joined at our actual physical table with
Katie.
And Scott.
And we want to invite you, gentle listener, to join us and know that this is a safe space and we are all just sitting around staring at Mychal with big eyes. No judgment, just sharing in the experience and witnessing her life.
And I hope that you're entertained.
And what are we drinking today?
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Thank you, Suzanne. I'm very thirsty. So with us, we are continuing on with our spirited cocktails. And because we felt like tonight you would need a more stiff drink, we are going with I'll have Scott tell you.
We're going simple. We're going classic. We are going dirty martini. Dirty martini.
So dirty that it's got like ectoplasm floating in it.
Mm-hmm. I was having fun the other day looking at all the different ways that you can quantify the dirtiness of the martini and ways to say this. I traditionally have always ordered it as Christina Aguilera dirty.
In Ron Money washing dirty?
You could do that. Is good. We were doing swamp water dirty. Well, this can get very non-peachy very quickly.
So most of what they said the other day would not classify on this podcast.
So, yes, we figured we might need a slightly stronger drink this time around. All right. So, as far as I know, everybody's going to stay at the table until, I guess we'll find out when they're not standing.
That's right. We're going to make a good faith effort.
Yes.
Katie and I are holding hands. We're braced with our drinks. We can do this. Right, Katie?
I'm here. I'm still here.
Okay.
Okay.
These are the introductions. Yes.
Okay, so get into this story. I actually this is the whole story. Okay.
Once upon a time.
Well, no, even before I get into it, I just want to say that this story, the reason why I left it for effing terrifying is because this is the one that I wanted, or where I learned why protection and learning how to control my space that way was always very important. And so...
Remember P for protection, people.
P for protection in our last season that we did. And this was the story that really required that to happen. So that's why I have this being as the effing terrifying, at least one of the reasons. So, okay, lots of setup for this. This is going to be a slightly longer story. It's a little bit more involved than the last one.
Drink up.
All right. So age-wise, I was about 15. This includes my brother, who at the time was about 18. It was summertime. My parents had, in that day, it was not unusual when your children were a little bit older to be able to, let them at that age be unsupervised for a night or two.
Well, if you think about it, 15 and 18 were the ages of most of the European heads of state in most of European history, which might explain why it was so insane. Yeah.
Yes. So, my brother, basically being an adult, was in charge of looking after me, and it wasn't for an extended period of time. All right. Now that's being said, my parents had stepped away they were out of town, I think, for a night. And doing normal teenage things. There was no house parties being had or anything like that. Yeah, I know, right? I was no fun as a kid.
I bet after this experience, you wish you would have had a party.
Probably. So it actually starts with my brother. We had gone to sleep in our separate bedrooms. He had not actually been able to fall asleep. He was feeling very uncomfortable. And he started to kind of see something visually in his room. The way that he described it was, because the lights were not on, it was like a Picasso painting of different shapes that were constantly moving, but it was all grayscale. So kind of similar, like I was saying in the first story, where it had a quality of being like TV snow, but just constantly moving in a kind of ball-like shape, but different shapes moving within itself. I hope, is that clear at all?
Like a kaleidoscope.
Kind of.
I think I've seen that episode of Doctor Who.
Okay, maybe, yeah. So that's kind of what he said that he saw. He, like me, was just trying to, well, maybe if I let it be, I'll step away, whatever. He started to feel like it had a unhappy energy. And so he got up. His bedroom was on the first floor. He got up and walked to the kitchen to go get a cup or a glass of water. As he walked to the kitchen, he could hear in the walls, like something was in the walls following him.
Wow.
And we know your story, that you've had many experiences like this in your life.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the earlier ones. Is this something that your brother had experienced before? Something that he had any knowledge of?
He had not. No,
Okay.
no.
But by this time, y'all had the ghost who had come through, was using your house as the pass-through, right?
Yeah, we had friendly ghosts up until this point.
Okay.
So
So
there was at least some familiarity with the other side.
Yes, but this is the first time that he ever experienced like it following in that way.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So like the creaking and all that kind of sound, like he would walk and it would be behind him following to the kitchen. So he got the glass of water. That's what happened. He walked back to his room. Same thing happened walking back to the room. And so he tried to stay in his room. And as I understand it, he tried to spend a little bit more time there. But he kept on getting the feeling like it was, like I said, unhappy, angry was, I think, the emotion that he kind of put on it. And so he thought strength in numbers. So he decided that he would come up to my room to sleep. So my bedroom was upstairs and I had a trundle bed. I was dead asleep at the time, so it didn't bother me. I didn't even know what was happening up until this point. He came to my room, pulled out the trundle bed, laid there. It followed him up to my room. Kind of same thing, following through the walls. You could hear it, he said. And as he was laying in the trundle bed, it was started to kind of swoop down and put pressure on his head. Like he could actually feel pressure on his skull. And so he thought it was really upset and mad. And so he thought, well, maybe it just needs time to cool off. But him moving to my room and it not getting better, there was something that needed to be done.
So I am just going to interject to calm my own racing heart, that this reminds me of a little bit of that moment in what was it High Spirits that
I love
we
that
watched
movie.
together?
Yeah.
And just looking at from the ghost perspective where they're trying to get rid of the guy, and I do believe they do jump on his head and they have all kinds of things flying at him as he's trying to sleep.
I'm trying to remember which one. There was a
Anyway.
lot of them. Yeah.
Yes.
They were all trying to get them to leave.
So I'm
Everybody's scared.
keeping that as my happy space while you tell your scary story about noises in the wall.
Yes. So at this point, he gets up, he wakes me up. This is where my memory comes into play. So I'm sleeping. My brother wakes me. He's like, get up, get up. And I'm like, what? What's going on? He's like, get up, get dressed. We have to go outside. I'm like, why? What's going on? He's like, just get up, put on some clothes, like outside clothes, and we need to go outside. It's like, what? Like me being very defiant with very little information, was not really wanting to cooperate. I'm sure he really appreciated that.
And at this point, you haven't heard or felt anything.
No, because I was dead asleep. This is one thing I do love about the fact when I do go to sleep, I'm kind of dead to the world. That's kind of how I sleep. Just I need to get there is the problem. So yeah, I was dragging my feet, moving slowly. I didn't even really, because I sleep, I had my pajamas on. I'm like, I just put on a robe because it's a little bit cool outside. Put on sandals. And I'm just like, I'm dressed enough. I'm going to go outside. Okay, let's go outside. very nonchalant about the whole thing. And he's like, let's go. Let's hurry up. Like, trying to get me to move.
And was he still dressed in his pajamas or whatever an 18-year-old sleeps in?
Yeah, he had on, he had pajamas and stuff. I think he put on a sweater and some shoes and things like that. And he may have actually gone downstairs and put on real clothes, like probably jeans. Like I think he was planning more ahead than I was at the time, since I didn't really know what was going on. You had a question?
I did have a question, but it's just because, when you, as a storyteller, thinking about this and the decisions that a character makes and the process that they go through, it's kind of like, so my parallel of this is, if I know that there is a bug I do not want to see in a room,
yes.
Am I going to go back to the room?
I was thinking the same thing. You separated.
Oh, well, I didn't even think about that. But
Yeah.
Would I go back to the room where the thing that scared me was?
I'm trying to remember.
Or would I be like, I don't know if my she's
Barefoot's
fit me, but
fine.
I'm going to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think it was very quick. He's trying to get me to go. He turned on all the lights. He turned on the light in my bedroom and the hallway, like everywhere lights were on, right? Which is another reason, I think at this time, I think it was about 1:30 in the morning, almost 2:00. And so I think 1:30. And, it's a little early in the morning for me to like want bright lights on. This is why I was just not wanting to cooperate as much as you would have
Well,
wanted.
also, just knowing your personality, you're like, give me a reason.
Yeah, I need a reason.
Y'all haven't established the code Casper yet.
That's true.
Or in this case, not Casper.
Not Casper. Yes. So we get outside, we stand out there. My brother also grabbed a lighter.
In case you had to burn down the house.
No. Actually, no. So this was the second time that we went back in the house that he got that. Okay, so we went outside. We're standing out in the driveway. I'm looking up at the house and I'm literally just like, can you tell me now what's going on, please? Now that we're out here, what is up? And so he explained to me what was going on. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. I can see why we got out of the house. It's like, what do we do? Because we hadn't been ever put in the situation before. So he's like, well, with the little bit that we had in our toolbox to deal with this in the past was we know that incense, kind of works for saging and clearing and that kind of thing. So, and that's what he did have some, and he felt that it was angry and it just needed some time to cool down. And so we decided, okay, well, what if we go on a walk? We'll just go on a walk. We'll give it some time. We'll come back. But I was like, if we're going to walk around, then I need to put on some more real clothes than a robe and sandals in my PJs. He's like, yeah, me too. And I need to go get the incense. I'm like, okay. We're going to go in. We're just going to run in and go real fast. Go in, get all these things done, and then come back outside. He's like, okay, I think we gave ourselves like 5 minutes to do this. Go in, do the things, jump out.
This is where they split up. You were asking.
Yes.
So the bravery you two had to go back into that house.
So we ran in. I just put on some sandals and, jeans or something, and a real sweater, and I grabbed a rosary. And my brother, like I said, got lighter and incense. We went back outside and we started to, the plan was just to walk around the neighborhood. And so every time that we would stop, just to kind of give you an idea of what the weather was at the time, it was not windy. There was no breeze at all. It was a still night. And so every time we'd stop to try to light the incense, a breeze would come and blow the flame out. So we tried so many times, and finally we got the incense lit, and then the ember on the incense went out. So then we kept on having to try again, and it would not light as much as we tried. And so we're like, okay, apparently we can't get this done, so let's just keep walking.
Do you feel the spirit or whatever it was blowing out your candle?
That's what we felt like at the time, yes.
So what did you feel as you were walking around?
So we were walking, and as we were going around the neighborhood, which was a new construction neighborhood, there was houses still being built. And so I'm telling you on purpose. So we were at first walking around the houses that were built and occupied by people. as we would walk, it would be, like I said, completely still, quiet, nothing going on. Always then 20 feet behind us about, we would pass, it would be quiet, 20 feet behind us, then would start to, like if there was wind chimes that they had in their backyard, they would go crazy. And just at that one house, not at all the houses, just the one house. Like they would just, like somebody was like rattling it really, really hard. And then we continue and then it would stop, completely stop. And then we continue on to another house that had dogs, I guess. And same thing, be quiet when we walked. And then 20 feet behind, it was always the same distance behind, the dogs would go crazy, barking, and just at that one house again. So wasn't like a whole neighborhood thing or anything like that. And it continued to follow us, and we figured it wasn't calming down. So we, not knowing what to do, decided to walk to the previous house that we had lived in where we did have the friendly ghost.
When you have a plethora of ghosts to choose from.
Yes.
Are we talking a half mile, 2 miles, 10 miles?
3 miles.
3 miles. Doable.
At 2 a.m.
in the morning in sandals. Yeah. I had not.
Being chased.
Yes.
So slow chase, but
it was a slow chase.
Consistent.
Yeah. So we finally decided, okay, if we go to the previous house, not because people were there, living there, but I'm like, we can just stand outside. We want to wait till the sun comes up because our parents were going to be coming home the next day. We just needed to get to the next day is what we were figuring. So we're like, okay. And once the sun comes up, normally all this kind of thing calms down. So we decided we'll just walk to that house. We'll wait for the sun to come up and then we'll walk back. So as we were making our way outside of the neighborhood itself, there was porta potties there for the construction of the new houses. And like I was telling you before that we would walk and things would go crazy behind us. The same thing happened. So we walked and then 20 feet behind us, the porta potty doors that had been closed, open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close, like just were like violently banging themselves open and close again and again. So I remember walking out of the neighborhood and I was just so scared, but also frustrated that I wanted to be able to know what I needed to do in order to make the situation stop. And so we walked.
Virgo problem solver there, y'all.
I know. But I was scared and frustrated, like all at the same time, not knowing what to do. So we walked, we waited for the sun to come up as we planned, and then walked back home, took a quick nap. My parents came home. We told them what happened. They called the friend of ours that was a medium to see what had occurred. And so
the people who were living in the former house with the friendly ghost,
yes,
didn't notice y'all standing in their yard.
No.
And the friendly ghost didn't come out and want to know, hey, what's up? You just come visit me?
I don't know if he did that, but we went there and we were basically just like saying, hey, because that ghost name, called his name, be like, hey, help us. Can you please help protect us? Like that's what we were asking for. And
so you just stood there in the yard, sat there in the yard?
Yeah, the sun, it didn't take too long. By the time we made it there, the sun, like maybe 20 minutes that we were there till the sun started to come up.
And then did you feel a difference after you asked that ghost for help and protection? Did you feel
I did.
There was an immediate shift?
But I don't think that it had actually followed us all that way either. So we definitely felt safer there. So yeah, I can't say at what point it stopped following us. I don't know, but there definitely was a feeling of safety there at that house. When we talked to the medium, he said, well, that somebody in our household had been, because we had some other experiences with ghosts and things like that we had some interest in, wanted to learn more, and we're looking for a teacher. And that person had not been very specific about what they wanted that teacher to look like. And so it's a bit like making a phone call and then leaving the phone off the hook, where you can allow anybody else to answer the phone. And so anybody else did answer the phone, and it wasn't what we wanted it to be. It was teaching a lesson to an extent, but not a lesson that's put in light and love in the best way forward, in that way. So the medium had explained that if, first of all, to put parameters on it, but the moment that we called him about it, that the energy had gone away. So it wasn't there to stay or anything like that. It was more, all we had to do was claim the space. And that's when I learned the first times, like what I share in the protection episode, of how to do that you don't ask, you don't say, please, can you, that there's just that strong feeling of self-presence and knowing, and just saying, you are not allowed here, you have to go. It's not a please, will you, establishing authority. Yes. So, and that was a major lesson for me, and something for me that I really, more than anything, was frustrated by, and to this day I'm less scared by, but frustrated by the story, is because I remember that point in time when we had just walked outside of the neighborhood and I was feeling frustrated and scared, and that would have been the perfect moment for me, had I have known that to not be so scared, to just stand up for myself and to turn around and tell it no and to go away, because I had it within me to be able to do that, and that I had not done that. And that's more for me where I felt the most frustrated. And any kind of regret that I have about it to this moment is that I wish that I would have just, I felt it, that I could have just turned around.
Just like you were almost waiting for someone to give you permission.
I think so. And I hated that I was scared about it, that I should not have been scared. And I realize that it's a scary thing, right? For something to actually follow you and chase you and that kind of thing. But
I think
also,
anything that's relentless is terrifying to the human, kind of, because we're such cyclical creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So something that has what seems to be an endless source of energy just kind of mentally terrifies us and exhausts us, because we know we can't
right
defend against it ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why we're so scared of robots and AI.
Perhaps.
Relentless.
I remember when I was a kid and I would have nightmares about ghosts, and the thing that terrified me the most about ghost was this idea that there was something that no one could protect me from.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's why I don't get scared of those kinds of things now. Like, I don't get scared by these stories. I don't get scared by the idea of ghosts in general anymore, because I now feel like a sense of authority that I can protect myself against it, versus it just being an invisible thing that can do whatever it wants to me, right? I know that that's not true.
Practice has made you perfect.
Not perfect.
In that situation.
And remembering, too, that at 15, boy into man, girl into woman, you're at a cusp.
Yeah.
You're no longer a child. You're not a full-grown woman. You are finding yourself. You're finding your power. You're finding your voice. You were not there, and that sounds like it was an experience that taught you, oh, I do have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be at this position again.
Yeah, I just didn't know to use it in that moment.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to. I just didn't know I needed to.
Yeah. I think.
And then you started jujitsu the next day.
Not the next day, a number of years later. But I think going back to the very first story, when I said no, I think that's another reason why that entity never bothered me again, is because that was my first reaction, was to say no, and then very defiantly kind of claim my space. Yeah. So anyway.
I was once staying on an overnight where, they've canceled all your flights and they just move you into whatever hotel they can.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hotel in New Jersey, and we got there at like 11 o'clock, and the whole thing was painted a color of pink that could charitably be called nipple pink. That word may have suddenly added us to different lists. Anyway, it was, and it was full of quasi reproduction classical art figures. So
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm painting a picture. Anyway,
Yes.
I went up to my room. I looked at it and realized I was not taking off my coat. I was just going to lay down on the bed in my coat. And so I did that. I felt instantly asleep. At some point, the interlocking door between my room and whoever's opened and
Oh
I
my
saw a
God.
person walk in.
Oh my
And I was so tired and so over the hotel. And so everything, I just sat straight up, screamed at the top of my lungs, and was very much an authority of, I am addressing you to get out of my room in much more colorful language. And I think the person just like, because I'm pretty sure it was a person, just stepped back and slammed the door. And then I heard him lock it.
As they should have.
It was like, I have become the scary one. But yeah, I imagine in some ways that's what it's got to be, is just such a sense of the outrage of do not walk into my space.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I've come across it again. We've kind of discussed it, that I've run into it with hotels where it's like, you know what? I'm cool with you being here until it's time for me to like start to go to bed.
And she's actually talking about spirits in the hotels, not just random people walking into her room.
True, yes. Spirits in the hotels where I could tell that they were there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm okay until a certain point, and then this is going to be my space. And so I've gotten really good about that. And that, yeah, as soon as it's like, all right, that's it. Bedtime. You guys got to go. That's not how I did it, but how I decided on the time and dealt with it. That, yeah, then couldn't feel them for the rest of the evening. And that, you know, even though I'm like, I realize I'm in your space at this moment in time, but tonight this is my room.
You have a hotel. Go
Yeah.
find another room.
Yes. So anyway, so happy Halloween. Ooh. Thank you to all of our guests who have kindly decided to be listeners to my stories.
Thank you for having us. I will not be returning for ghosts.
I'm sorry.
Are you sure? Is that the scariest you have? Are you sure?
Call me for the holiday special next year.
We do have Christmas shopping coming up.
We do. So I guess join us for our next Seasonette, which will be not holiday themed.
We start in November, so keep tuning in. We will keep dropping on Thursdays.
On Thursday. Next time on All the Woo.
A to Z.